A lot of people tell me, hey, when should I do my BHAG? At any time. If you are starting a business, you have to start with a BHAG. If you're doing 10, 20, 50 million, and you don't have a BHAG or a long-term goal, you have to write a BHAG. A lot of things that we teach in Growth Institute and Scaling Up, it's management. It doesn't matter if you're a company in China, in Mexico, in the US, or in Canada, or wherever you want in Europe. It doesn't matter if you have 10 employees, 50 or 100 or 2,000 employees. You all have management and leadership and alignment problems. And this is what Scaling Up fixes really well. So when we start working with companies, usually we start asking and helping them build their long-term plan or their BHAG, their big, hairy, audacious goal. And they usually tell you an internal BHAG. I want to do a $100 million company, or I want to build a company and sell it for $50 million for me to retire, or whatever. They tell you something they want for themselves. And I say, the only way you're going to build that is if you provide all this value to the world. So what you're telling me is an internal BHAG, not an external BHAG. You have to convert it to an external BHAG. So let me give you an analogy. What was the biggest issue of the US in the 60s? Cold War, right? We need to destroy the Russians. And the president in the US was President Kennedy. Imagine Kennedy coming out and saying, hey, I want to kill all the Russians, and I want to do all these nuclear weapons to kill the Russians. How popular will he be as a president? And who would have helped him do that? He said, okay, what can I tell the world that the world will be excited about, that I know if I build, I will have the technology to send nuclear weapons to Russia? And he was a man on the moon. And that's something everyone rallied around it. And he came and it's time to help the human being, whatever, I don't know the speech, but it was all about putting a man on the moon and be able to get the human being to be free and go over the world, whatever. And everyone rallied about it. It's a super popular president in the US and around the world. And he was very loved around the world because he really challenged human beings to be better. And he knew that if he was able to put them on the moon, he would have the technology to be able to send rockets to Russia with nuclear weapons. So you have to get your internal BHAG and translate it to an external BHAG, and really how you add value to the world. And the more value you add to the world, the more the world's going to pay you back. Usually, when you provide value to the world, you get paid back in currency. Sometimes you get back in referrals, in valuation, in a lot of other ways. But usually you get something back. I always said, if you really help the world, something's going to come back to you. And with that, you're going to be happy. So one of the things we do in Scaling Up in Growth Institute, or when we coach companies, is helping get their strategy right. And one of the most important parts of the strategy is getting this long-term BHAG 25-year framework plan. And usually when they come, they say, no, I have my BHAG, and they usually give you an internal BHAG, or they give you something that is not set with the right basis or the right structure. So one of the main things we do in Scaling Up at the Growth Institute or coaching companies is we help to get their strategy right. And one of the most important areas of strategy is getting their long-term strategy or their BHAG, their big, hairy, audacious goal. And one of the big mistakes that we see often is something we learned from Peter Diamandis from Singularity. And Peter the other day told me, he said, hey, Daniel, they pay me a lot of money to ask me one question. What is going to change in the future? And everyone wants to know what's going to change in the future. But they rarely ask me a question that I think it's even more important than that. What is not going to change in the future? So let me give you an analogy. If you put a strategy based on technology that exists today, in tomorrow or 10 years from now, that technology probably will not exist, and there will be a newer technology that will replace that. And your business is going to go under in the next 10 years if you put everything based on that. So I'll give you an example. The other day I was helping an entrepreneur in the US, and he saw our videos and everything online and said, hey, I'm ready to implement Scaling Up. Let me tell you my BHAG. And I was like, great, what do you do? I said, I have 20 stores that sell shoes for women. I want to get to 200 stores. I want to 10x my business. And I was like, that sounds great. You're going to make a lot of money, but I cannot help you. And the guy said, why not? And I said, because if I help you get to 200 stores, you're probably going to go bankrupt faster than if you do it on your own. And the guy was offended, like, what do you mean I'm going to go bankrupt if I open 200 stores? I told him, because your focus is opening stores for women. What's the importance of the store? And he said that women could buy shoes. And I was like, aha, that's not going to change. The store is going to change. Because your focus is on opening stores, you're disregarding a lot of other things in the process. So we made an exercise of what's going to change in the future, what is not going to change. And we decided that the way you're going to buy shoes, you're going to buy them through catalog, through the internet. You're going to probably take a picture to your foot. It's going to do a 3D render, and you're going to send it to a 3D printer, whatever. The process of buying the shoe is going to change. What is not going to change, women still want to buy 40 pairs of shoes, right? That's not going to change. So instead of putting a BHAG or a long-term goal of opening 200 stores, we changed it to help 1 million women in 1 year to buy shoes. So they wanted to be able to serve 1 million women in a year. They want to have the capability to serve 1 million women to buy shoes in 1 year. And now that completely opened their mind. And I remember when we were there, one of the team members was saying, like, I've been asking my boss to do website and sell online. And he said, no, because we have stores. Now can I do a website? Yeah. Now, if your job is to help 1 million women buy shoes, yes, you could do that. Hey, can I do a catalog? Yes. Can I do a multi-level marketing? Yes. Whatever, as long as you're helping women buy shoes. So when you think long-term, do not put your strategy based on something that is going to change in the future. Put it based on something that is not going to change in the future. So if you really want to know if your BHAG is right, if you have an internal or external BHAG or it's set right, just post your BHAG in the comments below this video. And me and my team will be happy to answer and give you some thoughts on how to do it right. So just write your BHAG, put what you think your BHAG is, and we'll be happy to give you some thoughts on how to do it.